Hey, Highlander, here. Um, there's an issue that it's been going around in my mind, and I want to talk about it because it's something that's close to my heart. And but thinking about things, maybe sometimes they become larger in my head than they are in real life. But I think this one concerns everyone who is enthusiastic about Commodore 64 games, and namely homebrew games. I want to put it out there that the development of the way that games for the Commodore 64 are being distributed uh, is going in a direction that I don't like. Some of the games are unnecessarily hard to obtain, and some of the games are unnecessarily expensive. Now, I don't want to point the finger at anyone, or, you know, everyone just does the thing that is best for them. Uh, but is not necessarily good for the entire community. And we make this whole homebrew game buying, distributing, and creating community. We make it ourselves. This whole system, we make it, and it develops. And I'll tell you what I mean. Back in, say, towards the 2000s, you'd have programmers that would make games, they'd put in the time, and they'd realize, I'm not going to make a living out of making homebrew Commodore 64 games, so they would just talk about it on the forums, Lemon, Forum 64. They'd post a work in progress, and people would interact with the developer, and then it would come available for download because basically the programmer had no way of charging any money, nor did he have a lot of interest. Maybe some did, maybe some didn't. Then distributors like RGCD and Cytronic and Protovision, and now we have double-sided games, we have itch.io, and distributors started coming along, and they would offer the ability to sell the games, and they would add value. You know, they would add packaging, they would add a manual, they would add the thing on disc, and now we have a community that is ready and willing to pay for homebrew games. And let's face it, some of these games are really good. In fact, I would state that most of them are really good. I'm willing to say that most of the money that people were spending on these games were going to the distributor to cover their cost of the boxes that they made, and the manuals and the posters. And, you know, you would be able to get a digital download. As time went by, we would be able to get a disc, maybe a tape. Now, the absolute premium would be a cartridge version of the game, you know, awesome, really nice, and there would be goodies and all that. Currently, it's it's been a development that I've seen more often, and I'll name a couple of examples because that makes it clear. Some of the games are available only on cartridge first. So no digital download will be available until all of the cartridge stock is sold out, and then a digital download will be available. It's not that there is no digital download. There is, because you have to buy the cartridge version and then you get the digital download. So I don't quite understand why that is. Because if if a publisher was just trying to cover their cost, then there would be no need to make people buy the cartridge version first. I don't understand that. I mean, RGCD would be normally the company to sell the cartridge version of a game, and then if I wanted a disc or a digital download, I'd go to Cytronic, and then, you know, that would be like the normal way, or normal, that was the way that things were, and the way that I thought, well, this way I have a choice. If I don't want the cartridge version, which call me crazy, but I'm not a fan of cartridge versions. They load faster, but I don't want the box and I want to have to put it in. I'm fine with a digital download. I'm fine with that. But I have to wait in line, and I don't understand that. I'll name a couple of examples. Monstro Giganto. A really cool game. A really cool concept. And it has a technical reason for it to be on cartridge. It's got to do with the amount of data that needs to be swapped around during the game, and doing that with a disk load would just be too slow. So cartridge only, fine. But I couldn't get it as a digital download. I had to wait. And the cartridge version was 35 euros. Now, just to put that in perspective, I paid 35 euros for Elite Dangerous Odyssey version. That's a huge game with a large amount, with a large team of programmers and artists and designers and server programmers and whatnot. Of course, a much larger market, but I paid $35 for the upgrade for that. I don't want to pay $35 for Monstro Giganto, even though it's a great game. I mean, Antonio Savona is the one who programmed it, together with the Zanzibar Pirates, a team that I've never heard of, but something comes out that's worth, all the accolades. It's really cool, but for me, it's not worth 35 euros. So I want to have the choice. And I don't see why the digital download wasn't available immediately. I've had to wait. I think I've had to wait a month, maybe two. I bought it recently for 8 euros or something, which is reasonable. I might have paid more, but again, it's not the price level so much. It's just the lack of choice. There's another game. There's two games. I ran across a game called We Are Stardust, which apparently is distributed on vinyl. Like the actual game is a soundtrack on vinyl, and you have to extract it from there. I don't even have a record player, so I don't have access to this game. I know there is a digital download possibility, but it's being withheld. First, I have to choose whether I want to buy the vinyl, and if I don't, I'm now a second-rate user because I have to wait, because maybe it'll become available as a download. Why? There's another vinyl example, Solus, by my favorite programmer, Georg Rottensteiner, who made Supernatural. He made Solus 1. I really like Solus 1. One of the problems with Solus 1 was the jump mechanic. Once you were in the air, you couldn't go left or right, which was a bit, worth of an upgrade. Now that upgrade has been made. There's a Solus Enhanced Edition, which I can't buy, which I don't get automatically as an upgrade as a Solus owner. I own several copies of the game, and I would expect a message from itch.io or wherever I bought it to say, hey, there's an upgrade for your game. No, I now have to buy Solus 2, which I'm very excited about. I mean, Trevor Story has a track record of designing really cool games with great graphics, and I'm going to buy it. But now there's going to be a Kickstarter. And the original soundtrack is going to be on vinyl. And I've seen Trevor say that it's not sure that there's going to be a digital download. And Solus 1 will be distributed only with Solus 2. So now I have to buy Solus 2 to get Solus 1. I don't know of any example in the gaming history where I have to buy a sequel to a game to get an upgrade of the original game, which was flawed. This is not right. Again, I'm hoping that Solus 2, which will be available through a Kickstarter, I'm hoping that there's a tier for a digital download. If there is not, If I'm surely hoping that I don't have to buy vinyl. I don't have a record player. I have no interest in vinyl. So as you can see, my story here, there's been a development from programmers wanting to distribute their games, not necessarily for money. If I look at Antonio, all the proceeds that go to him for Fix-It Felix and also for Monster Giganto, it go to charity. But I'm sure he's only talking about the proceeds that go to the programmer. And I'm also convinced that all of the programmers that make homebrew Commodore 64 games, they realize that they're not going to make a living off these games. I'm not saying that they can't make money, but there is no reason to limit access to digital downloads to get the expensive stuff sold first, to get the cost covered of making boxes. No, I think the distributors in this case have the most important role, and all of us. I mean, don't forget that there's also a big scene, like the scene in Commodore 64 world would offer cracked versions of games. Now, the scene has been moved to a point where they are withholding cracked versions of games because they are still being sold by, they're literally saying on their website, support the developer, which I think is good. But if the distributors keep making games hard to get, it won't take very much for the scene to go, you know what? Fuck that. I mean, I'll give you another example. Metal Warrior Ultra. Now, Lasse Ernie has made his code base for games like Steel Ranger, Hessian, all the Metal Warrior Ultra, really good games. You can download most of those games off Lasse Ernie's own website for free, right? Then apparently he made a deal with Protovision because the game, for the longest time, the game was only available from Protovision. And Protovision's vision on selling games is to go for the top tier of the market. Like, someone's obviously been to marketing school, but because you can, this goes along the lines of selling detergent. People will buy the same detergent for double the amount of money if you do the marketing differently. So Protovision aims at the top tier of the market. But they're selling the same games. So selling the same games for double the money isn't going to work unless you are the only one selling these games. So Metal Warrior Ultra and Soul Force by Sarah Jane Avery were exclusively available from Protovision. I don't know how they did that, because Cytronic had Metal Warrior Ultra on sale for pre-order for the longest time. They must have gotten together and made a deal and said, hey, can you wait with selling digital downloads of Metal Warrior Ultra until I've sold at least this many, or I've had this much time to sell? And in any normal market, that would be inexcusable, wouldn't it? Why does one? These aren't competitors. These people are playing the market now. So and this thing was actually happening. I can't get Soul Force unless I go to Protovision, and a digital download is €13. That's a lot of money for a game. I mean, if I wanted to spend my €13 on Steam, I could get a hell of a lot more. I mean, I like Sarah Jane's work. It's perfect. It's nice. And I'm willing to pay for it. But I don't want to be tricked into paying more than I have to. So this is a development that I've been seeing. We've gone from games available for free just because programmers love making these games, to a situation where I have to wait for the availability of a digital version of a game that I'm willing to pay for. I mean, where is this going to end? And again, I'm not pointing my finger at anyone in specific, but this is a thing that we're doing as a community, and no one's actually managing it. And I'm seeing things happening that I would normally not accept from distributors. So I wonder what you think. Please discuss this. Put something in the comments, and let's see where we end up. Thanks for watching.